Generally speaking, I think we all kind of understand that teenagers are kind of stupid. It's just a part of life, it's a part of growing up. And also that a lot of people are willing to do stupid and dangerous things for clout. With that being said, I think a lot of news outlets kind of take one small thing and run with it. Obviously, the Tide Pod challenge happened. People were taking videos of themselves eating Tide Pods for clout. I don't know how that would get you clout, but you know, teenagers don't always think things through all the way. But I think the biggest problem was the media presence that said teenagers were eating Tide Pods was so much more widespread than the actual challenge itself. Tide Pods are very dangerous. I feel like that's not a very controversial thing to say, and I think a lot of people know and understand that. And yes, people were being hospitalized and dying from eating Tide Pods. It was not mostly teenagers. Mostly it was small children or, unfortunately, people with dementia. In short, people who just didn't know any better. And a lot of these deaths occurred right as Tide Pods started to become a thing. The little laundry detergent packets do have a lot of beautiful colors in them that a small child might mistake for candy. And perhaps a person with dementia might not realize either that this is not a small piece of candy. As well as this was a new development, there's a good chance that it just might not have known that this was in fact soap and not food. So yes, people were in fact ingesting and then getting really hurt, sometimes dying, because of the Tide Pods. And yes, I don't know who would need to hear this, but in case you do, if you eat a Tide Pod, bad shit will happen to you. It's not gonna be good for you. But specifically about the Tide Pod challenge itself. Again, I'm not denying that it happened. There are obviously videos of it. Most of them are not on YouTube anymore, although the YouTube guidelines are fucking weird. You can sneak stuff by it all the time. But I do firmly believe that the Tide Pod challenge was never a big a deal as the news tried to make it seem. I think the news has a very hard time understanding internet culture in general, but especially jokes. People did make a lot of jokes about how tasty it would be to eat Tide Pods, about how they're just so scrumptious that people can't stop eating them, about no matter how poison they are, they're just too good. How could you possibly not want to eat them? These were obviously all jokes, and these jokes have been going on for a while. The first time the Tide Pod challenge itself was actually mentioned and started becoming a thing was in 2018, while these jokes were more like 2016, 2017. So Tide Pods were in the culture mindset as a highly poisonous but possibly delicious food for quite a while. And again, it's not like it's safe to expect most news sources to understand internet culture, and that a lot of the internet memes are highly sarcastic. And also, it didn't help very much that The Onion put out an article from the perspective of a toddler eating a Tide Pod. So the idea of people eating Tide Pods on purpose was completely a joke from 2016-2017 area. And Procter & Gamble did try. They put extra warning labels, they issued a bunch of statements, and then they started putting bittering agents in the materials, which I don't understand how there wasn't bittering agents in there before. But even despite bittering agents and all that, if you get any of that shit in your mouth, call poison control immediately. Again, so it was mostly just a meme, kind of following in the footsteps of The Onion, making a joke about how good and tasty it would be to eat Tide Pods. College Humor came out with a sketch all about eating Tide Pods. And then in 2018, January of 2018, news articles started to spread about the quote-unquote Tide Pod challenge. And again, I already say this, people did take videos of themselves eating Tide Pods. Usually they didn't fully eat it because again, that shit tastes nasty, so there was a lot of gagging. That didn't stop people from going to the hospital, however. And again, sometimes people are gonna do stupid shit for clout. So yeah, the Tide Pod challenge is real in the sense that people did it, but it was not real in the way that the media made it seem. There was just this overwhelming feeling of, look at what these stupid teens are doing now. They're all killing themselves eating Tide Pods. Look how stupid they are. How dare social media teach our kids how to do this thing. Very fear-mongery. It's not that surprising. This kind of thing happens all the time. It cycles. Video games cause violence. Satanic panic. Tide Pod challenge. Obviously, there's some tiny little bit of truth somewhere in there, but the media will take it and run completely out of control, completely causing a bunch of fear where there doesn't really necessarily need to be any. Yes, some people were doing Tide Pod challenge stuff. Was that the majority of teens? Absolutely not. I think even the fact that people were trying to call for a Tide Pod challenge was a meme in itself before, unfortunately, a few people decided they wanted to do it for real. This is the time of the internet where challenges were fucking enormous. The whole challenge culture still exists, but it was not the same as it was back then. There was the cinnamon challenge, the fucking ice bucket challenge, the chubby bunny challenge. I can't remember them all. I wasn't allowed on the internet. I had to sneak all this information behind my parents' back. People were doing stupid things, and people still do stupid things. However, I do think we give teens a little bit too much shit. Don't get me wrong, teens do stupid stuff as part of being a teenager, and a lot of times they refuse to listen to reason. I think it's not unfair to say that most teens will recognize how dangerous this is and maybe joke about doing it, but probably won't do it. I've not been actively seeking out Tide Pod videos, but I do want everyone to keep in mind that it is incredibly easy to fake videos online. If there's any cut in the video at all, there's a chance it's faked. Even if there's no cut in the video, there's a chance it's faked. And sure, there were definitely some people eating Tide Pods for real and going to the hospital. There is always a chance that some of these videos online were faked and people were not eating the Tide Pods. They just wanted people to be upset, kind of rage baiting before we had a word for that. Looking into it a little bit deeper, no teenagers actually died from eating the Tide Pods. Again, that's not saying they're not extremely dangerous and that people did not lose their lives, but no teenagers specifically did. And this does matter in the context of what we're talking about, the Tide Pod Challenge specifically. In fact, some sources say under 100 teenagers even did the challenge. That didn't stop so many articles being written about how dangerous this is, how stupid the teenagers are for even doing this, and how dangerous social media is as a result. And again, in my personal opinion, I have not seen the videos. Once again, just to clarify, I want everything on the table so you can form your own opinions. My opinion is that some of these videos were faked. I don't think all of them. I think a good majority of people didn't truly realize how dangerous it is. They thought swallowing it would be dangerous, but putting it in their mouth, it was fine. That's not true. Don't put it anywhere near your mouth. If you get any laundry detergent in your mouth, call poison control or go to the hospital. But there is a very good chance things were faked. There were videos of kids quote unquote cooking the Tide Pods. Again, this feels more like a joke than a true challenge. And the media just kind of ran with this idea that teenagers are stupid, they're killing themselves on purpose because of social media. And that just isn't true. And again, there were so many articles about kids getting sick from eating Tide Pods, and this is true. The main difference is it was toddlers who were just getting into places they were not supposed to be, and not teenagers purposefully poisoning themselves for internet clout. Social media is not great. It has a lot of drawbacks. It has a lot of issues. I just don't understand why the media chooses to focus on something so sensationalized and not even really the truth. Yes, eating Tide Pods is dangerous. Yes, it is concerning that the meme was slowly transforming into a challenge. Do we need to take it that seriously? Not in my opinion. It's very easy to write a news article about how stupid teenagers are. They do dumb shit all the time. It's very easy to talk about the dangers of social media because there are some, but it's also very easy to fearmonger because there's already so much going on with social media and a lot that parents don't really understand. To me, there's just more important things to be doing than worrying about teenagers eating Tide Pod. Truly, it is not that big of a concern. And I wish the media would understand, and I wish that the media kind of understood how clout worked. The more they talk about it and the more emphasis they put on it, it's just gonna make the weirdos who wanted to do this in the first place want to do it more. The people who are willing to injure themselves and put their lives in danger for clout are going to see the news constantly reporting on this as just an avenue to get more clout. It's unfortunate, but some people do believe that all attention is good attention. So just don't give them any attention at all. People who are willing to do dangerous stuff like this are going to continue to do it if they see they're getting attention from it. And not every single person who is putting themselves in harm is attention seeking. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying specifically social media is meant to draw attention to yourself. And there are unfortunately people online who want attention no matter what. And I know it's incredibly hard not to feed into that when you see somebody doing something wrong or hurtful. You want to try and stop them. Unfortunately, sometimes the answer is just to ignore it. The Tide Pod Challenge was truly never that big of an issue, and there's a good chance it would have been even less of an issue if people stopped reporting about it all the fucking time. How much of a difference it would have made, we'll never know. Again, like I said, the meme was pretty spread throughout the internet at that point, so maybe it would have always turned into this. But again, even with the meme itself turning into this quote-unquote challenge, not that many people did it. No teenagers specifically died from it, and in that way, nobody truly died from the Tide Pod Challenge. The unfortunate victims of eating Tide Pods were people who just did not know any better. The same kind of thing happened with the Blue Whale Challenge, and maybe one day I'll talk about that. But because of what I'm talking about and the fact that the media is running wild and kind of spreading things that aren't necessarily true, the Blue Whale Challenge is kind of a full nothing burger. Maybe I'll talk about it one day, maybe I won't. The Blue Whale Challenge did not exist. The Tide Pod Challenge barely existed. And maybe the media needs to focus on something a little bit more substantial instead of just making shit up and trying to scare parents. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me in this video. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all are having a cooler summer than I am, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.